Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
The weeks-long work stoppage impacting MTS bus routes in East County and the South Bay is over. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Many bus routes had been on hold for the last month, but KPBS reporter Melissa May tells us that all bus routes are back to their normal schedules today.
An agreement between the Teamsters Local 683 and Transdev was reached on Sunday to put an end to an ongoing strike by some MTS bus drivers. As the bus operators return to work, as an extra safety precaution, there's a screening and interview process to ensure they are fit to drive before being deployed on routes. The South Bay Division has 100% of routes running, but has reduced services on routes, with buses running every 30 minutes instead of 15. However, East County is operating at 100% coverage. One rider was happy to get on the bus Monday morning.
We've missed a lot of appointments. I've been late to work. It's been very inconvenient. So now that they got a deal, they struck a deal, I'm very happy. From the bottom of my heart, I can be on time and go to work and everything's okay.
Stephen Whitburn, the MTS board chair and San Diego City Council member, wanted to thank the passengers who have experienced major disruptions in their daily lives due to this work stoppage. And went on to say, we know work still needs to be done to address some of the issues for better working conditions. Transdev, the company that is currently contracted to run 65% of all San Diego routes, released this statement that said, "We know the hard work of our operators is truly appreciated by not only the company, but the communities we serve. We are pleased to have come to a mutually agreeable solution that truly values our employees and the work they do." Melissa May, KPBS News.
San Diego restaurants near the coast may have to start removing street-side dining in the coming weeks if the patios take up parking spots. KPBS's Scott Rodd checked in with customers and local business owners who expressed concerns about the move.
Street-side dining rolled out at the height of the pandemic. It gave cooped-up residents an opportunity to enjoy their favorite bars and restaurants, and threw a lifeline to local businesses. Many San Diegans say they've gotten used to it.
I think they're good for the area, they're good for the people.
Michael Jenner sat outside Pacific Bean Coffee in Pacific Beach, enjoying some coffee and cheesecake. He admits parking availability is a problem, but says nixing roadside dining won't solve it.
You gotta come up with something that isn't gonna get less crowded.
The State Coastal Commission last year recommended removing roadside patios that take up precious parking spaces outside restaurants near the water because it would impact people's access to the coast. The City Council last month largely agreed with the recommendation. It's expected to take effect in July. Errol Kazolu, owner of Pacific Bean Coffee, says the decision would harm his bottom line.
My shop is so small, so I have only 2 tables here. With outside, my customers can sit almost more than 10 customers, 12 customers.
Affected businesses can keep their street-side dining areas if they replace the eliminated on-street parking spaces with nearby off-street parking at no cost. Scott Rodd, KPBS News.
In the early months of the COVID pandemic, San Diego began a pilot program to slow down traffic on a handful of streets to encourage outdoor exercise and social distancing. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says on one of those streets, the changes are being made permanent.
For almost 3 years now, Diamond Street has been a quieter and safer place for people to bike through Pacific Beach. The city began its Slow Streets pilot program here by adding movable barriers and signage, directing drivers to use parallel streets for through traffic.
You shouldn't have to be brave to bike down in your own neighborhood street.
Ryan Stock of the nonprofit Beautiful PB says since the city added traffic calming to Diamond Street, more kids and families have been riding bikes here.
PB is a very popular place to go. We are only going to have more people coming here over time as the city grows and evolves. And the only solution there is either to build giant parking lots or to get less people driving here. And I believe that cars just don't scale. We've kind of hit that limit, and we need to have people taking other modes of transport that really free up a lot of space for those that do need to drive.
Starting on Wednesday, city crews will install traffic diverters at 2 intersections on Diamond. The small plastic posts in the pavement will direct drivers to turn right while letting cyclists, pedestrians, and emergency vehicles pass through. Officials hope the improved safety and comfort for people on bikes will help San Diego reduce its addiction to cars, the city's largest source of greenhouse gas emissions.
We know that you can't leave the car behind for every trip, but how do we support people moving for those shorter trips or the trips that can be made into an exercise or a social activity? That really is what the Diamond Street project can do for us.
The city received grant funding to expand this kind of traffic calming infrastructure to other neighborhoods. It hopes to do so in the next year and a half. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
The long-running effort to redevelop the sports arena in San Diego got a big boost when billionaire Stan Kroenke became the main investor in the redevelopment project last week. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado has reactions from one of Kroenke's new partners.
This is amazing.
Stan Kroenke, the owner of the LA Rams and Denver Nuggets, is now the lead investor in the Midway Rising redevelopment project.
It is so compelling, and it is such an exciting investment opportunity that one of the most successful and deep-pocketed real estate investors has chosen San Diego to put.
That's Jim Anderson, the Chief Development Officer at Chelsea Investment Corporation, the partner company in charge of the affordable housing component.
And let's create a lot more housing for the people who desperately need it.
The project is slated to add a 16,000-seat arena on the 50-acre property, replacing the historic Pechanga Arena in the Midway District. It will also add retail space, a hotel, a plaza and park, plus 4,200 housing units, half of them affordable.
2,000 affordable housing units is the single largest affordable housing project in the history of California. It's never been done. Are we going to do it? You bet.
Anderson says Kroenke is the perfect fit for the team they have assembled because he's not just a person with capital, but also follow through with accomplishments like SoFi Stadium.
That takes an individual that is willing to push and push hard to achieve that result. Not a big corporation with a giant board of directors that's going to look at every nickel. Mr. Kroenke only invests in places he really believes in. I think it's a great endorsement of this project and a great endorsement of our region.
Rumors are already swirling about what this could mean for the future of San Diego sports.
Will another professional team come to San Diego? I mean, you probably know as much as I do. However, will it happen? I think it would be pretty awesome because San Diego deserves it.
He says the backing of such a large investor willing to pour money into Midway Rising makes what is now a vision one step closer to becoming a reality.
We are going to have a deep-pocketed balance sheet to see us from today all the way through the final home being developed and rented. So we couldn't be more thrilled, and it simply just really gives the project a turbo boost.
The cost for the Midway project is expected to be disclosed next month. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, the U.S. Secretary of State wraps up a visit to China aimed at easing tensions between the two nations. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Today is Juneteenth, commemorating the end of slavery in the U.S. This is the third year since the holiday was given federal status in 2021. Here's Jen Sullivan with a look at the festivities across the country.
Cities across the country celebrating Juneteenth, a federal holiday marking the end of slavery. One one of the nation's largest parades held in Philadelphia. Marches bringing people together in Denver.
It makes you see that it's not just you, you're not alone.
And in Washington, D.C., festivals lined the streets.
This holiday is about celebrating freedom from slavery. As hard as that is to even say, that's the reality.
While cities are filled with colorful celebrations this holiday, the road to end slavery was a much darker time in American history. In 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, ending slavery in the U.S. But news of liberation slowly spread across the South. It took more than 2 years for the news to reach the final enslaved group in Galveston, Texas. That day was June 19, 1865, 158 years ago.
The country, the nation, the government had people in bondage. It was ugly. But now is a time that we can show the world that America doesn't stay in bondage, that it actually comes forth.
Monday, the city of Galveston marking the birthplace of what is now Juneteenth, a day of liberation now celebrated across the country.
To celebrate one of our nation's founding principles, the principle of freedom.
Jen Sullivan, KPBS News.
Slavery is often associated with the South, but a new book by historian Gene Felser looks at 250 years of slavery and slave revolts in California. The book is called California, a Slave State, and KPBS reporter Katie Heisen spoke with Felser about this past and how it continues today. Here's what stood out to her from that conversation.
I was unaware of California's history of slavery until I spoke with Gene Felser. When California captured the land from Mexico, it had all this fertile land, the mines, and no labor force to work it. The American military helped enforce the slavery of Native Americans, and plantation slave owners marched about 2,000 enslaved Black Americans from the South. And these policies were codified into California law. Within months of California entering the U.S. with a state constitution to never tolerate slavery, it legalized enslaving indigenous people. And Gene writes that California's history of bondage has not been interrupted. I'll let Gene explain more.
Walk through parts of San Francisco, you can see barred windows and no signage, and those are sweatshops. We see girls standing by the freeway exits selling flowers. Those girls are very likely trafficked. We see teenage girls at truck stops. And we now know that at the detention centers at the border, down near Tecate, down near Tijuana, that desperate migrants are being either sold or escape and take the opportunity to flee from the detention centers and find themselves trafficked as field workers, as factory workers.
Gene also talked about prison labor in the state and sexual slavery, women being trafficked on websites like Craigslist. But after every chapter about slavery in Felser's book, she includes a chapter about slave revolts. She says that human beings demanding and fighting and putting themselves at risk to win their liberty is as much part of this state's fabric as slavery itself.
And even today, there's a struggle for equality, and that includes access to health care. Dina Chisholm researches health equity in Nationwide Children's Hospital, and she says that there are significant statistical gaps in health outcomes and care access for the Black community, those with low income and those who live in rural areas.
When we leave folks behind, we create a situation where not everyone has an equal opportunity for success in school, and not everyone has an equal opportunity for success in jobs. Identify where the ways we're doing things impact populations differently in a way that generates differential outcomes, and then figure out how to fix it.
And Chisholm also says that health is the foundation everything else is built upon. So if health is improved for all, she says children have the opportunity to do better in school, adults could be more productive at work, and healthy citizens tend to be more engaged in their communities. At least one person is dead and nearly 24 injured after a tornado swept through Mississippi. Now more than 50 million people across the southeast face the threat of more severe weather, all amid record-breaking heat. Ivan Rodriguez has the latest.
A deadly tornado swept through Jasper County, Mississippi overnight, leveling homes, tossing vehicles, and downing power lines. While west in Crystal Springs, residents woke to hail-ravaged vehicles and homes.
It is pretty bad. We got windows broken out. My neighbor, we had his window broken out. Our cars' windows are broken out.
The Mississippi Emergency Management Agency is still assessing damage from the overnight storms.
We can't do nothing about it, I guess. Mother Nature doing what it do.
Forecasters are tracking new threats of hail, tornadoes, and high winds from central Texas, east to Florida, and up into the Carolinas Monday. Now, across Texas, Louisiana, southern New Mexico, and Mississippi, around 35 million people are under heat alerts from a blistering heat wave, according to the National Weather Service. Many will be taking on the heat without air conditioning.
It's like 94 inside, and you couldn't open the windows because it's probably hotter out there.
Hundreds of thousands of customers are without power in the South, prompting this Houston YMCA to open its doors.
We're a designated cooling center, which means that anyone in the city can walk into any YMCA and open a guest pass account.
The Weather Service in Midland, Texas, tweeting, "It's going to be hot. Try to spend as little time as possible outdoors." The worst heat is expected Monday through Wednesday. Ivan Rodriguez, KPBS News.
Amid the severe weather, President Biden announced federal funding for several climate programs. He made a stop at the Palo Alto Nature Reserve on the campaign trail, during which he announced the $575 million Climate Resilience Regional Challenge. It's aimed at helping coastal and Great Lakes communities become more resilient to extreme weather.
Climate change is the existential threat to humanity. The existential threat to humanity. I've never been more optimistic in my life, and the reason I'm optimistic is because of this generation. It's the best educated, the most engaged, the most involved, and the most consequential.
The president also announced an investment of more than $2 billion to modernize the nation's electric grid to be more climate resilient. This was a part of a 3-day road trip of the Bay Area.
Breezy conditions continue over the mountainous terrain. The next couple of days we'll also notice a bit of a change in the air temperature. A little cooler air making its move in. Later on this week, dry stretch will be persisting. Let's talk about tonight, and overnight lows will be dropping down to 58 Chula Vista, 57 Oceanside. Some clouds at the coast over the interior. Not looking overly active either. Borrego Springs 68, Mount Laguna falling down to again 51. The same temperature we'll see toward Ramona. Here's a look at Futurecast, and again notice not a whole lot of activity going on. There will be some showers well off to the north and to the east, but notice a limited amount of the cloud coverage as we work our way throughout your Tuesday afternoon. So again, we're going to be up into the 70s again from Oceanside down to Chula Vista. Some of the interior valleys, mid to upper 70s, even around 80 toward Ramona. Borrego Springs climbing into the mid to upper 90s. Mount Laguna topping off at 64. Do want to take you here through time as we work our way toward the coast. Notice we will start to notice a little bit more in the way of cloud coverage going into Wednesday, also again into Thursday, and that's going to have a little bit of an implication on our temperatures as those numbers will be dropping down a bit into the upper 60s, but it will stay quiet as we work our way throughout the remainder of the week. Interior valleys next couple of days looking to be right around 80 degrees, lots of sunshine, a little bit cooler here. Later on this week, we'll drop it down into the mid 70s. Thursday into Friday, into pleasant as we work our way into the start of the weekend. Over the mountains, like I said, the wind component here will add to a little bit of the chill, especially in the early goings as we're waking up to those temperatures into the mid and the upper 40s. And notice we're down around 60. Heading into Thursday with some wind out there, we work our way into the weekend. Temperatures start to make a bit of a comeback. Into the deserts we go, upper 90s, mid to upper 90s next couple of days. A little bit cooler with some wind on Thursday, and then we'll start to see the numbers climbing back up into the start of the weekend. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic.
In the latest installment in our series on public art, KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis spent time with Tijuana street artist Carlos Rodriguez. Rodriguez says public art in Tijuana feels like a free-for-all.
Carlos Rodriguez has multiple murals in Tijuana. They use bright colors and show everything from Mexican folklore to the universe, even butterflies, all to depict ideas of spirituality and culture. Unlike in San Diego, he says public art here doesn't require permits or approval from public art commissions.
You show up, you paint there. If the cops don't see that you're doing something that's kind of like too weird or, something they don't like, they won't say anything.
Instead, you just negotiate with individual property owners. It's a liberating environment, but not a particularly lucrative one.
Because sometimes they'll tell you, hey, I'm going to give you materials, but you're going to basically paint for free. And there's nothing to win there, except, you get to display your art in a public spot. But you need to make money out of it too.
This lack of public funding makes it tough to make a living as an artist. Rodriguez supplements his income by working in a call center. He also sells commissioned art pieces on social media. Rodriguez says Tijuana's colorful murals pop against the city's gray backdrop. Street art is a reflection of Tijuana's diversity, a mixture of immigrants, deportees, and Mexicans who came to Tijuana in search of a better life.
You get a little bit of all the different cultures and different backgrounds and ideas of people, what they have.
His latest project depicts a couple of dogs standing next to a giant heart with the words La familia no se abandona, or Don't Abandon Family. He made the mural with a deported artist named Javier Rojas. It's meant to raise awareness about abandoned pets.
There's a lot of stray dogs in the city in general, or people buy dogs thinking they're going to be small, and then they grow big, and what do? The first thing they do, they throw them out in the streets.
Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
Little leagues across the country are facing major umpire shortages, and at the same time, we're seeing a lot of aggression from parents and even coaches at youth games. Vanessa Yurkovich spoke to some umpires, parents, and players about how the two issues may be related.
It's one of America's favorite pastimes.
Baseball's just it's very fun.
But the kids' fun is being ruined by
What is happening?
Adults. Around the country, brawls are breaking out at youth baseball games. A coach coming after an umpire at a Little League game in Alabama.
He already heard you. I'm going to forfeit the team.
Parents aggressively yelling at an umpire in Texas.
Feel better? I feel fine.
I can't understand what could get someone so upset at a children's baseball game.
I'm with you. I don't understand it either. There's an expectation that, every game is do or die for their kids' future in this sport.
The physical and verbal abuse by parents is having a dramatic impact, an umpire shortage. Since 2017, the number of youth umpires in the U.S. has dropped. And at the high school level, there are nearly 20,000 fewer referees across all sports than before the pandemic. But with signs, those numbers may tick up this year.
We've suspended people from the park and
suspended parents from the park?
Yes.
For how long?
Usually it's one game, 2 games to begin with, and then if it becomes worse than that, then we ask them not to come back.
On this picture-perfect evening in Ramsey, New Jersey, the Robins are playing the Orioles. 21-year veteran umpire Carl Kroenke is calling this Little League game.
That was low, ball 4. I'm the boss out there, no doubt.
He's a calm boss.
All right, here we go.
Which works in his favor.
How have parents been in recent years?
Some can be a little louder than the coaches. Some vulgarity at times, but I let the parents say what they're going to say. If they continue, then you have to then tell the coach, you have to kind of manage your parents. If you don't calm that down, I'm going to have to ask you to remove them.
Mike Wood has gotten into his fair share of arguments with umpires.
It has been suggested maybe I should leave a game,
Suggested by who?
But we never got to that point.
Suggested by who?
By the umpire. The umpire said, look, if you don't like the way I'm calling the game, you can leave. I'm not going to leave, and doesn't mean I have to enjoy the way that you're calling the game,
But his son Jack, catcher for the Orioles, and Evan, catcher for the Robins, see it from a different perspective.
The umpire is the top tier man, and you have to respect him.
Do you think it's appropriate for parents to be so involved, yelling things at the umpire?
They should be excited and focused on the game, but when they talk to umpires and yell at the calls and stuff, I think that's a little unnecessary, maybe.
Unnecessary because why?
Because it's like a kid's game, and it's just like Little League, so kids are just trying to have fun.
When adults behave badly, the kids lose.
I have to stop the game, and nobody wants that. I can also understand that a parent, wanting their child to, to succeed, but not at that price.
In the end, the Robins beat the Orioles for first place. But really, everyone's a winner. It was a clean game by the kids and the parents.
Good game. That was a great game. Great game. Great game. Great game.
And that was Vanessa Yurkovich reporting. The National Umpire Association says the number of baseball and softball umpires in the Babe Ruth Youth Baseball and Softball League has been on the decline. Since 2017, it's dropped from just over 6,000 to just under 5,000. And here is a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition has a profile on baseball star Shohei Ohtani with a focus on the youth baseball culture in Japan that gave him his start. And Tuesday's Midday Edition, it's all about brain health. Local doctors share their advice for how to keep your mind and your body healthy. And as always, you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.